All right, let's just get right to it. For any of you in a leadership role, you know that cybersecurity, well, it's not just an IT problem anymore, something you can just delegate. It's officially moved out of the server room and has a permanent seat in the boardroom. We're talking about a core responsibility of governance, of strategy, and let's be honest, of survival. So let's really break down what that means for you.
And look, this isn't just some passing trend. It's a full-blown mandate. This quote from Lindy Cameron, the CEO of the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre, really says it all. Digital literacy is as non-negotiable as financial literacy. Think about that. You wouldn't have a board member who can't read a balance sheet, right? Well, the same now goes for understanding digital risk. The message couldn't be clearer. The days of executives saying, "That's not my department," are completely over.
And the stakes here? They couldn't be higher. So what's this number? 42%? All about? Well, that's the percentage of companies, of actual cyber attack victims, who say an attack caused a significant disruption to their operations. And we're not just talking about a stolen customer list. We're talking about grinding your entire business to a halt. Production lines stop, services go down. It's that serious.
Okay, so that brings us to the big question. Why now? Why is this conversation happening with so much urgency all of a sudden? I mean, it's not just that there are more hackers out there, though that's true. The real reason is that the rules of the game have totally changed. We're seeing a brand new wave of regulations and, you guessed it, personal liability for the folks at the very top. And this right here is the absolute crucial point. Under new rules, like the EU's Product Liability Directive, a flaw in your software can be legally treated as a product defect. This is a massive shift. It's a total game changer. Think about it. If your software product gets hacked because of a vulnerability, it's now seen in the same light as a car being sold with faulty brakes. And for that, management can be held personally accountable. And please, don't think this is some far-off, we'll deal with it later kind of thing. Just look at this timeline. This wave of new EU mandates is already rolling out, and it's coming at you fast. These aren't friendly suggestions, they are hard deadlines. They're building a framework of escalating pressure and accountability. The clock is absolutely ticking on this. So this whole new reality is basically built on a handful of really powerful new laws. You've got the NIS2 directive, which is expanding security roles to cover way more sectors. Then there's the Cyber Resilience Act, or CRA, which basically forces security to be built into a product's entire lifecycle, from start to finish. You add the PLD, the one that makes software liability, and DORA, which is all about toughening up the financial sector, and what you get is this sort of ironclad compliance environment that boards just cannot afford to ignore anymore.
All right, let's talk about the financial hit, because it's staggering. Just look at the Cyber Resilience Act for a second. If you breach the cybersecurity requirements, you could be looking at fines of up to 15 million euros. And that's just for starters.
But wait, that's not even the whole story. The fines can also be a percentage of your company's total global turnover for the year, up to 2.5%. Now, for any major company, you do the math. That is a number that is absolutely guaranteed to get the board's immediate and, shall we say, undivided attention. So, okay, you've got these huge new liabilities, all these new regulations. It means the conversation in the boardroom has to change. It's time to stop talking in technical jargon that nobody understands and start speaking the one language everyone in business gets, the language of risk, resilience, and governance.
You know, this really is a complete shift in mindset. The old way of thinking, that was seeing security as just another IT cost center, right? It was all about technical controls that only the tech team understood. But the new way of thinking frames cyber resilience as a strategic enabler, something that's managed through the lens of business risk and requires direct oversight from the board. At the end of the day, it's about protecting shareholder value, not just protecting servers. And to speak this new language, everyone on the board needs to get comfortable with a few core concepts. First, security by design. That's just building security in from the very beginning. Then, vulnerability management. That's the never-ending process of finding and fixing flaws. Coordinated disclosure is about how you responsibly report those flaws when you find them. And then, there's maybe the most important new term on the block, the Software Bill of Materials, or SBOM. So what on earth is an SBOM? The best way to think about it is like a list of ingredients for your software. Seriously, it tells you every single component, every little piece of open source code that's inside your product. So why does that matter so much? Because you can't possibly secure something if you don't even know it's there. And SBOM gives you that transparency. It lets you track vulnerabilities across your entire supply chain.
It's not a nice to have anymore. It's absolutely essential. Okay, so we've covered the why this is happening and the what you need to know. Now let's get to the most important part, the how. How does a board actually do this? How do you provide effective oversight? Let's walk through a really actionable framework. This cycle you see here, this is basically the blueprint for good governance. It all kicks off with a real, genuine understanding of the risks. You can't govern what you don't understand. Once you have that, it empowers the board to ask tough questions, to provide effective challenge to the management team's plans. From there, you can build a consistent approach to risk across the whole company. That consistency builds the board's confidence in plans, both for defense and for what to do when things go wrong. And finally, you have to measure it all with appropriate metrics, stuff that actually speaks to business impact, not just tech jargon. That in turn deepens your understanding, and boom, the cycle starts all over again. Now we can actually boil all of that down into 4 key actions for any board. Simple, right? Number 1, know your stuff. Know your biggest threats and your most valuable digital assets, your crown jewels. Number 2, set the rules. Based on what you know, set your risk tolerances and create clear plans. Number 3, make it official. Establish and fully endorse a formal security program for the entire company. And number 4, keep your eye on the ball. Constantly monitor, report on how it's going, and, this is critical, have a tested plan to respond when, not if, an incident happens. Okay, to make this even more practical, let's go through 5 key questions from the UK's Financial Conduct Authority. These are questions every single board member should be asking themselves and their teams. First up, and this one's personal, do I have a good enough grasp of the cyber risks our company faces to actually ask the right questions and challenge the answers? Question number 2 is all about your internal structure. How do you make sure that your internal risk and compliance teams, what we call the second line of defense, can really challenge the IT and security teams who are on the front lines? Can they do it effectively and independently? Are those crucial checks and balances actually in place and working? The third question is a great one because it connects cyber to something boards already know inside and out. It asks, which parts of our approach to managing, say, conduct risk, could we apply to how we manage cyber risk? The point is, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. It's all about applying governance models that you already know work to this new area. Question 4 is all about being ready for when things go wrong. Because they will. Look, it's one thing to have a beautiful incident response plan sitting in a binder somewhere. It's a whole other thing to know if it actually works. So the question is, how confident are you, really, that your plan has been tested and would hold up in the heat of a real crisis? And finally, question number 5. This one pushes the board to think strategically, to look ahead. Are you just playing defense, constantly reacting to the latest threat? Or do you have a proactive, forward-looking plan with clear goals and timelines for actually improving your cyber resilience over time? This is what it means to move from a purely defensive stance to a truly strategic one. And that brings us to the big takeaway here. This whole conversation can feel a bit scary, right? It sounds like it's all about avoiding fines and managing downside risk. But the really smart companies, the ones leading the pack, are reframing this entire thing. They see it as a chance to build a genuine competitive advantage. Because at the end of the day, being cyber resilient is about so much more than just ticking a compliance box. It's a strategic enabler. It's the absolute bedrock of customer trust. It's a huge piece of your brand's reputation. And ultimately, all of that adds up to protecting and even creating long-term shareholder value. So I'll leave you with one final question to take back to your team, to your own boardroom. Is your cyber strategy just a defensive cost? Another line item on the balance sheet? Or are you treating it like a strategic investment, something that can become a real, measurable competitive advantage? The answer to that question really changes everything.